guys, we're back talking some more of the Lord of the Rings of Power on the channel. Since last week's episode, I feel like the show is finally hitting its stride. I mean, sure, not every single storyline to this point is a home run, but I am invested to see where each of these characters go by the end of the season, and this episode is no different. I think that episode 5 is another solid episode. Since they were absent from episode 4, I was glad that we opened up the episode getting to see the continued journey with the Harfoot and the Stranger, who now conveniently is talking a whole lot more. I suppose being around Nori and the rest of the Harfoot have made him a bit more talkative, because he does seem much more receptive now whenever they do try and communicate. I'm still a little bit skeptical of the guy. I mean, they try a whole lot here to make you feel sympathetic with him, as he does feel bad because he feels like he's a villain of some sort when he's talking to Nori, but I don't know. I still just have my doubts about the character no matter how much they try and make him so likable. I mean, if we do want to talk about some mean characters, some of the other Harfoot in this caravan, they're pretty ruthless. They're talking about leaving Nori and the Stranger and all of them behind in the caravan and just keep on pushing, even though they're in these extremely scary woods with these wolves skulking about. For this instance alone, it made me glad that the Stranger was around to protect Nori and them as they're being chased through the woods by these wolves in this extremely tense situation. The way in which he saves Nori and them from the wolves does lead to some more questions to ponder upon about the reveal of who the Stranger could potentially be, due to the fact that his arm has this weird stuff going on now, and then he puts his arm in the water and it starts freezing the water. I don't know, it's clearly evident he has some level of abilities, but it seems like he does struggle when it comes to controlling them, so he's still a very suspicious character in my eyes, and it doesn't really help the whole suspicion levels when we do pan to seeing the crater where he landed, and there's a mysterious figure looking overhead, and I know that a lot of people speculated that's supposed to be Sauron, or at least a form of Sauron that he took on, but personally I have reservations on if that is Sauron or not. I don't think it's Sauron. I think it's just someone that is working with Sauron in some shape or form, but we'll see. That was like the very short glimpse of the character we got in the entire episode, so it's still a mystery. After his introduction in the last episode, we get a little bit more of the Dar in the episode. We don't get a whole lot here, but we do get a kind of more broad look at his motivations and the way he's threatening Arondir's camp to surrender, and not surprisingly, a chunk of them end up actually trying to surrender, and some of them unfortunately pay the ultimate price for surrendering. I did have to laugh though that the one guy thought he was actually Sauron. I mean, this is kind of the thing that seems to trigger him at this point, and I have to wonder if he is working with Sauron in some shape or form, because at least based on what we got in the episode, it seems like he's not working with Sauron. At least that's what it felt like to me. It just feels like Adar has his own separate motivations that feel kind of adjacent. We still have a couple episodes left to flesh out that stuff, but it seems like in the next episode, Arondir, Bronwyn, and Theo in their camp, they're in some pretty grave danger as the orcs and all of them are heading to take out anybody that didn't actually surrender. Speaking of battles, after the proclamations at the end of the last episode, I really thought that this week we were going to be sailing away from Numenor and going to the battle in Middle-earth. I was extremely wrong. We are still preparing for the battle in Numenor, so my excitement for that was a little bit premature, but it seems like by the end of the episode we are sailing away to go to the battle in Middle-earth, so next episode, fingers crossed. Although we are confined to Numenor once again, at the very least there are some good developments here for many of the different characters, some of which are a bit more nefarious in nature, particularly Pharazôn. I think he is kind of the most nefarious character going on in this plot line. He is still scheming behind the scenes and crafting up ways how this will benefit him in the future if they do go battle in Middle-earth, so it's kind of a win-win situation for him, at least in his eyes. With Isildur, I figured it was a given that he was going to go on the expedition. That's at least what it seemed like in the end of the last episode, but his dad Elendil shuts it down immediately. Apparently Elendil does not care about nepotism. He actually makes Isildur earn his way onto the ship for the expedition. I mean, kinda, sorta. I mean, he really actually does it at the end of the day. He sneaks onto a ship and then it explodes, and then by the end Elendil lets him on the ship regardless. It's kind of tough to describe the relationship between Halbrand and Galadriel. It's kind of sort of friendly at times, but most of the time they are very confrontational to one another, and that's no different in episode 5. Honestly, I like the relationship more between Galadriel and Elendil. I think they have some great chemistry with one another, and usually have some of the best scenes, even if they don't have too many scenes together. Much like in this episode, one of the most fun scenes of the episode is seeing Galadriel try and train all these people to potentially fight orcs, and she pretty much kicks everybody's ass. I mean, it's a pretty unfair fair fight. Galadriel is a warrior at this point, and these are kind of young soldier types. We've already pretty much established in previous episodes she's not exactly a people pleaser or like a great teacher of any kind. You know, she was deserted by people earlier on in the season, mainly due to her aspirations for revenge for the death of her brother, and it does play a lot into the episode here when she's talking to Halbrand, when she speaks up for Halbrand on this Middle-earth mission without his approval, and that really upsets him. But that is the catalyst to them unraveling, I guess, being vulnerable to one another and kind of revealing why they are the way that they are. Galadriel even apologizing to Halbrand for everything that she did and about how she's so driven by revenge for her brother, and she's pretty much going to do whatever it takes to get that revenge. I am very intrigued by Halbrand, though, after this conversation, because we do kind of touch upon that he potentially did some pretty bad things, and that's why he was cast out, and that's where we found him in the beginning of the series, but we don't touch upon it too much. That's one of those mysteries that I am more intrigued to see unravel, along with who the actual stranger is. I have a feeling that one of them probably is going to be Sauron of some kind. I'm kind of like on the fence between either one, but I don't know. He could also just be the Witch King of some kind as well, or just some other Nazgul. But much like in the last episode, my favorite storyline is the one involving Elrond and Durin. To me, at least, it feels like the most Lord of the Rings to me. I know that's kind of weird to say in a show about the Lord of the Rings, but just the ideals of this relationship, this friendship, all that stuff, I love it. Getting to see them arrive to Lindon and discussing things with Celebrimbor and Gil-galad, who actually gets some extended time here. We haven't seen much of Gil-galad, and after this episode, I guess I'm kind of glad because he's kind of a jerk. The way that he's questioning Durin for what he's doing and how he's questioning Elrond for actually being friends with Durin, kind of rude. This entire storyline, though, does pose a big dilemma for the friendship for Elrond and Durin, because there are a lot of things at stake here that we kind of figure out along with Elrond. Since it does pose a tough decision for him to make, since the elves desire the mithril that Durin's been mining, since it's going to save them from death, but it comes with breaking his promise to Durin, and you can tell just in this little short time frame they have their plot thread, he really takes the whole promising thing very seriously. I mean, we know that they're going to make it out okay, because Elrond, Gil-galad, and all them are alive thousands of years later for the Lord of the Rings, but it was still a nice sentiment here for all of that stuff and the fact that Elrond comes clean to Durin about his intentions, and they make up about it. They seem pretty cool. They're going to go back to Khazad-dûm and deal with the mithril there, but I am a little bit nervous because I feel like because of the way that we tease that story that Gil-galad makes Elrond retell, I feel extremely certain that we're going to encounter a Balrog down there. I mean, we know there's going to be a Balrog in some shape or form in the show. I think it's going to be down there, and I'm a little bit nervous for all of the people down there. Between all this stuff and ending with Galadriel, Elendil, and all of them sailing to Middle-earth for the battle, I think next episode is going to be really awesome and action-packed, so fingers crossed for that. But overall, this episode I thought was pretty solid. I enjoyed most of the aspects of the episode and all the different storylines. I think they are converging pretty well, so, I mean, it took a couple episodes to get going for the storylines, but I think we're going to have a great second half of the season. But that is my thoughts on the Rings of Power episode 5. Make sure you share your thoughts down below. What did you think of this episode? Did you like the episode, not like the episode? Share any theories you may have on where we're going to go for the rest of the season. Also, if you have any theories on where you think we're going to see Sauron, if any of these characters, these mysterious characters are going to be Sauron, whether it be Halbrand, or the Stranger, or that other mysterious buzz-cut figure, do you think that's Sauron or someone else? Share all your thoughts down below in the comment section, because part of the fun is having the conversation with you guys in the comment section down below. Thank you guys always chat in the reviews. I always do appreciate that. Make sure to like on the video and also subscribe to the channel so we update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. For next time, I'll see you guys later.